Yeah, hi folks. Yes, Nanaia Mahuta is as corrupt as they come. She entered Parliament for no other reason than to line her family's pocket. Now, David Seymour politely called it nepotism, and he's right, but I'd prefer to call it exactly what it is. It is none other than dirty, filthy corruption. Have a look for yourself. Now, folks, I pre-recorded this yesterday. The Daily Examiner, all in the Mahuta family. Now, the corruption and conflict of interest in this story is absolutely stark. Victoria O'Brien, now she was a new Conservative Party candidate, but now is a member of the New Nation Party. Now, besides the corruption between Mahuta and her husband and first cousin, William Gannon Ormsby, and her sister, Tipa Mahuta, there is this. MP for Titai Ho'uru, I think it is, $75,000 to $725,000. Late uncle, former MP of Western Maori electorate, Koro Weteris Marae. Now first, let's look at Mahuta, Minister of Local Government, Associate Minister of Maori Development, former Associate Minister for the Environment, Three Waters, Hipuapua Trust Beneficiary, Mahuta Whānau Trust, and all three are pointing to it. And now to her sister, who has been appointed co-chair of Maori Advisory Group, part of Three Waters, co-chair of Waikato River Authority, co-chair of Maori Health Authority, and is a member of the Waikato Regional Council, member of Te Maruata Subcommittee of LGNZ, Local Government New Zealand, which advises on local government policies and legislation. And now to Mahuta's husband, who has been convicted for assaulting a woman. He's the director and sole shareholder of Ka Awatea Services Limited, works with local government and central government, finds business opportunities for Maori, advises on regulatory functions. Two family members, Tomoko Ormsby and Waimirirangi Ormsby, also directors of Ka Awatea part authored Hipuapua. Now I'll come back to these guys shortly, folks, and have a closer look at them. Appointed to expert panel on water strategy for New Zealand. Waste strategy for New Zealand. With those same family members. Now folks, I posted a link to this article below and I urge you all to read it. All the evidence and legal stuff is given below. Now I'll stop it there, folks, and have a closer look at Tomoko Ormsby and Waimirirangi Ormsby. Now here are the Ormsbys, and they are a product of Auckland University, the woke equity centre of New Zealand. And this is Claire Charters, and she's the main author of Hipuapua, and she's the Dean of Equity at Auckland University, and they all collaborated together to come up with Hipuapua. And of course they're all puppets of the UN. Sustainable Development Goals, featured speakers, and here we are, Tomoko Ormsby and Waimirirangi Ormsby. Who would have thought?
But now it is my very great pleasure to introduce Dr. Claire Charters to provide you with an overview of the UN reporting system. Claire.
Ko tēnā koutou, ko Ngāti Whakau e te iwi. Claire Charters is my name, and I've been working, I don't need a lectern, I've been working in Indigenous rights at the UN level for quite some time now.
Can you see where this is going, folks? Yes, all roads lead to the UN.
You know what? There's nothing wrong with coming late to a party, as long as you bring, I guess, a good bottle of wine and some good conversation. And that's what I'm going to say about the Herald, which has finally come to the party over the story that we pushed about Nanaia Mahuta and the remarkable confluence of contracts and government money flowing to, and positions flowing to members of her family. The Herald has revealed another contract of around, I think, $78,000 awarded to William Gannon Ormsby, who is Nanaia Mahuta's husband. This was from Kainga Ora, which is the Ministry of Building or something. It's so hard these days using two languages to name ministries. Anyway, he's got another 70, 80 grand out of them for his company. But the Prime Minister now, we've got her to come to the party, but she hasn't brought much to the table. She's simply standing by Nanaia Mahuta.
Yes, because she's not running the country. The UN is.
Over claims of perceived conflicts of interest in contracts involving her family. Last month, I love this from the Herald. Last month, the Herald revealed, last month, just Herald, just a little correction, the platform revealed that the Ministry for the Environment had awarded Mahuta's husband and family members contracts worth around $90,000. Ka Awatea Services is the gravy train which Gannon Ormsby rides. And now we've found another, or the Herald, I'll give them their due, they've found another contract for $73,000 for arranging hui, that's meetings and workshops. Oh, that's actually an English name. We all know what a workshop is. It's like a working group. And the Prime Minister says, we stick closely to the guidance of the Cabinet Office, as all governments are expected to do, and the guidance has been followed. The Cabinet Office have advised that in each of these cases, they believe proper process has been followed. Apparently, there's been some discussion around this, and the Prime Minister is satisfied. Well, that's great. I don't think we are. I don't think anyone in New Zealand is.
Except Willie Jackson, the Maori Party, and Matthew Tukaki, etc.
And I think this entire issue now comes into this ball of wax around co-governance, the Hipuapua report, which has clearly influenced the government's public interest journalism fund and warped mainstream news coverage of issues like co-governance, like the Nanaia Mahuta issue. And it all seems to suggest a subterranean agenda that perhaps is not one that most New Zealanders, Māori, Pākehā or anyone else might be comfortable with. Someone who has beaten the drum on these issues for some time, and I'm pretty sure is still a member of the group Hobson's Pledge, is former leader of the National Party, Don Brash, and Don Brash joins us now. Don, welcome to the platform once more.
Thank you very much. Good to talk.
All right, Don, we take all these things separately, and that is the Nanaia Mahuta questions, a number of bills around local body governments which would appear to give iwi non-democratic control over public bodies, the revelations here on the platform that the Hipuapua report forms a large part of the guidelines for public interest journalism funding. And isn't a picture emerging of an overall government strategy to change the nature of New Zealand?
Oh, I think there's no question about that at all, Sean. We're seeing the most extraordinary attack on democracy that New Zealand has ever seen. I mean, it's hard to know where to start. You talked about Nanaia Mahuta's husband and that family connection. You didn't mention his sister's role. she's been appointed to an extremely powerful role in the whole water infrastructure area. She will be the chairperson of an organisation that's named by Don Brash, which will basically determine a lot of what happens in the Three Waters infrastructure area. Her sister is the chair of it. Extraordinary.
All right. What about the government's claim? Hitherto, the Prime Minister had said, He Purpura, the UN United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People.
The UN United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. There it is, folks. All roads lead to the UN.
Wasn't such a big deal.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolute nonsense. When you look at it, Sean, you've got a whole series of moves in the last 12 months. I mean, the first word the public heard about He Purpura, I think, was about mid-April last year. And am I not allowed to mention? Well, can I mention Peter Williams' name? I guess I can.
Of course you can. You can mention anyone's name on the platform. Yeah, go for it.
He did a big interview with David Seymour, but in the middle of April last year. And that was, I think, the first significant media story on the He Purpura document. And it grew. Judith Collins made a number of speeches at National Party regional conferences, then went suddenly quiet on the issue. I'm not quite sure why that was the case. But over the last 12 or 18 months, we've seen again and again manifestations of this He Purpura document in a whole series of government policies. I mean, one recent one, of course, was the Rotorua Legislation, which they tried to put through, which would have given disproportionate weight to Maori voters in Rotorua as compared with all other voters. Now, finally, David Parker, the Attorney General, did say that was inconsistent with the Bill of Rights, and it didn't proceed. But it had already gone through first reading with the full support of the Labour Party. You get the Canterbury Regional Conference, where legislation is now almost through, which will enable Ngāi Tahu to appoint 2 members of Ngāi Tahu to the council, Environment Canterbury Council. Everyone in Canterbury, of course, gets a vote for that council, but Ngāi Tahu have an additional capacity to add to appointed members. You see it all over the place. Other local government issues, of course, we used to have a right to decide whether we wanted Maori wards. Now we don't. I mean, it's a councils make the decision. They have no right to be public don't have any right to overrule them, and we see it again and again. It's very insidious. Free Waters, Maori Health Authority. We're changing the nature of New Zealand democracy in a way which has never been tried before.
Also, we don't seem to be getting much media coverage of this issue on anywhere else but organisations like the platform.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, you mentioned a moment ago the Public Interest Journalism Fund, which effectively, for any media to get access to that fund, they have to swear an oath effectively to a particular interpretation of the treaty, which is not an interpretation which the great majority of New Zealanders accept. And if perchance to breach that commitment, they have to repay any money they've received.
Now, I wonder if that has something to do with Judith Collins going silent.
With interest. I mean, it's an extraordinary attack on all the sort of things we regarded as basic principles of New Zealand democracy.
Now, folks, I'll stop it there, and you can see or listen to the rest of that in the link below. Yes, folks, Don Brash has always been on the right side of history. He has been warning about the treaty stuff for about 2 decades now, but sadly no one has listened. And he was National's best leader until he was rolled by John Key. And now look where we are.